The five greatest admirals of World War II. World War II was not just a battle fought on land and in the skies. It was also waged across the vast and unpredictable oceans. The seas became a theater of war, where towering aircraft carriers, stealthy submarines, and formidable battleships clashed in battles that would shape the course of history. At the center of these maritime struggles were the admirals, commanders whose vision, strategy, and leadership turned the tide of war. But among the countless naval officers of the time, who were the finest? Join us as we explore the extraordinary lives and legacies of the five greatest admirals of World War II. Admiral Chester W. Nimitz, United States. Admiral Chester W. Nimitz was a calm yet commanding figure who rose to prominence during one of the darkest chapters in U.S. naval history. After the devastating attack on Pearl Harbor in December 1941, the United States faced an urgent need for decisive leadership to rebuild its shattered Pacific Fleet and respond to the surging power of the Japanese Empire. Nimitz was the man chosen for the task, stepping into the role of Commander-in-Chief of the Pacific Fleet at a time when morale was low, resources were scarce, and the future seemed uncertain. Nimitz approached this monumental challenge with characteristic calm and pragmatism. He recognized the scale of the task before him and understood that conventional tactics and strategies would no longer suffice. Under his guidance, the U.S. Navy would pivot away from its traditional reliance on battleships, which had been dominant in the early 20th century, and embrace the growing significance of aircraft carriers. This shift was not just a tactical adjustment, but a revolution in naval warfare, one that Nimitz championed and refined. The results of this strategic shift became evident early in the war. At the Battle of the Coral Sea in May 1942, Nimitz's fleet executed the first major engagement, where aircraft carriers played the central role, marking a new era of naval combat. Although technically a tactical stalemate, the battle stopped Japanese expansion toward Australia and gave the Allies a psychological and strategic foothold. The lessons learned here set the stage for an even greater triumph just a month later. The Battle of Midway in June 1942 was Nimitz's defining moment as a strategist and leader. Armed with critical intelligence that revealed Japanese plans to ambush the U.S. fleet, Nimitz orchestrated a counter-trap with remarkable precision. He deployed his carriers, Enterprise, Hornet, and Yorktown, to a concealed position near Midway Island, ready to strike at the overconfident Japanese forces. When the moment came, the U.S. Navy dealt a devastating blow, sinking 4 Japanese carriers and altering the balance of power in the Pacific. This victory not only halted Japanese expansion, but also demonstrated the effectiveness of Nimitz's carrier-centric strategy and his trust in his intelligence team. Beyond individual battles, Nimitz's vision extended to the broader Pacific campaign. His leadership was instrumental in the development and execution of the island-hopping strategy, a bold and resourceful approach that avoided direct assaults on heavily fortified Japanese strongholds. Instead, the U.S. Navy targeted key islands that offered strategic advantages, such as proximity to Japan or the potential for airfield construction. This strategy allowed the Allies to advance steadily across the Pacific while conserving resources and minimizing casualties. The islands of Saipan, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa became milestones in this campaign. Each victory brought the U.S. Navy closer to the Japanese homeland, establishing forward bases for air raids and preparing for an eventual invasion. Nimitz's ability to coordinate these complex, multifaceted operations across vast distances was a testament to his organizational skill and strategic foresight. He understood the importance of logistics, communication, and collaboration, ensuring that every part of his sprawling command worked in unison toward a common goal. Nimitz was more than a brilliant tactician. He was also a leader who inspired trust and loyalty. His calm demeanor, even in the face of daunting challenges, reassured his subordinates and allowed them to operate with confidence. He fostered an atmosphere of respect and collaboration, empowering his commanders to take bold actions while ensuring they felt supported. Nimitz's humility and willingness to learn from both successes and failures endeared him to his peers and solidified his reputation as a leader of extraordinary character. By the end of the war, Nimitz had transformed the U.S. Navy into a dominant force, orchestrating a series of victories that paved the way for Allied success in the Pacific. His contributions were not limited to military achievements. They also reshaped the nature of naval warfare, setting a new standard for strategic innovation and leadership. Admiral Chester W. Nimitz's legacy is one of resilience, vision, and the quiet determination to turn the tide of history in the face of overwhelming odds. Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, Japan. On the opposite side of the Pacific was Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, a man who combined intellect, experience, and charisma to lead the Imperial Japanese Navy. Yamamoto, fluent in English and educated at Harvard, had a unique understanding of the United States. This insight drove his strategy, particularly the surprise attack on Pearl Harbor in December 1941. Pearl Harbor was a gamble, a bold move to destroy the U.S. Pacific Fleet and secure Japan's dominance in the Pacific. While it achieved short-term success, Yamamoto knew the attack had awakened a sleeping giant. He warned Japan's leadership that they had only 6 months to capitalize on their momentum before America's industrial power would shift the balance. Despite the eventual setbacks, Yamamoto's strategic genius was evident in early victories at places like the Philippines, Malaya, and the Indian Ocean. Tragically, his life was cut short in 1943 when American forces intercepted his plane. Yamamoto's death marked a turning point for Japan, as no successor could match his leadership or vision. Admiral Andrew Cunningham, United Kingdom. Moving to Europe, we find Admiral Andrew Cunningham, known affectionately as ABC. Cunningham was a quintessential British naval officer, bold, resourceful, and fiercely loyal to his men. As Commander-in-Chief of the Royal Navy's Mediterranean Fleet, he faced the daunting task of keeping vital supply lines open while countering the Italian and German navies. One of Cunningham's greatest achievements was the Battle of Cape Matapan in 1941. Using superior tactics and intelligence, he decimated an Italian fleet, securing British naval dominance in the Mediterranean. His willingness to engage in night battles, where his ship's gunnery skills outshone the enemy, became a hallmark of his strategy. Cunningham's leadership shone during the evacuation of British and Allied troops from Crete in 1941. Despite heavy losses and immense pressure, he famously declared, "It takes 3 years to build a ship. It takes 3 centuries to build a tradition." His determination to save his troops, even at great risk to his fleet, cemented his reputation as a commander who put his men above all else. Admiral Raymond A. Spruance, United States. In the Pacific, another American admiral quietly carved his name into history, Admiral Raymond A. Spruance. Known as the Silent Admiral, Spruance was the epitome of calm under pressure. His most famous moment came at the Battle of Midway, where he commanded Task Force 16 after replacing Admiral Halsey due to illness. Spruance's ability to think several moves ahead was critical at Midway. He avoided overcommitting his forces, instead allowing the Japanese fleet to fall into his trap. His decisions led to the sinking of 4 Japanese carriers, a catastrophic blow to Japan's naval power. Later, at the Battle of the Philippine Sea, Spruance showcased his mastery of defensive strategy. Dubbed the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot, the battle saw American pilots destroy hundreds of Japanese aircraft, effectively ending Japan's ability to wage large-scale carrier warfare. Spruance's meticulous planning and unflappable demeanor earned him the respect of his peers and the admiration of history. Grand Admiral Karl Dönitz, Germany. Grand Admiral Karl Dönitz was one of the most influential naval commanders of World War II, renowned for his tactical brilliance in submarine warfare and his pivotal role in shaping the German U-boat campaign. His career is marked by a mix of strategic ingenuity and moral complexity, as he played a key role in Nazi Germany's military efforts while maintaining unyielding loyalty to Adolf Hitler. Dönitz's contributions to naval strategy, particularly his innovative use of U-boats, made him a central figure in the Battle of the Atlantic, a theater of war that shaped the course of the conflict. Born in 1891, Dönitz entered naval service as a young man, gaining early experience during World War I, where he served aboard submarines. His wartime experiences convinced him of the immense potential of submarines as a decisive tool in naval warfare. These convictions shaped his career, particularly when he assumed leadership of Germany's U-boat fleet during the rearmament period under Hitler's regime. When World War II began in 1939, Dönitz was tasked with overseeing Germany's submarine operations. With a relatively small fleet at his disposal, he implemented bold strategies to maximize their effectiveness. Chief among these was the development of the wolf pack tactic, where groups of U-boats would coordinate attacks on Allied convoys, overwhelming their defenses and sinking large numbers of merchant ships. This method proved devastating in the early years of the war, crippling Allied supply lines and causing significant losses in goods and resources vital for the war effort. The Battle of the Atlantic became the centerpiece of Dönitz's strategy as the Kriegsmarine sought to strangle Britain by targeting the lifeline of supplies that crossed the ocean. Dönitz meticulously planned operations, analyzing convoy routes and deploying his U-boats to maximum effect. The results were staggering. Thousands of Allied ships were sunk, and the campaign pushed Britain to the brink of economic collapse. Despite the effectiveness of his tactics, Dönitz faced mounting challenges as the war progressed. The Allies developed new technologies and tactics to counter the U-boat threat, including sonar, long-range patrol aircraft, escort carriers, and improved convoy systems. These innovations gradually reduced the effectiveness of the wolf packs. By 1943, the tide of the Battle of the Atlantic began to turn, and the U-boat fleet suffered increasing losses. In 1943, Dönitz was promoted to Grand Admiral, the highest rank in the German Navy, succeeding Admiral Erich Raeder. This promotion underscored Hitler's confidence in Dönitz's abilities and his loyalty to the Nazi regime. Dönitz continued to advocate for the development of advanced submarines, such as the Type 21 U-boat, which featured cutting-edge technology. However, these innovations came too late to alter the course of the war. As Germany faced defeat, Dönitz's role expanded beyond the Navy. In April 1945, following Adolf Hitler's suicide, Dönitz was named his successor as President of Germany. In this capacity, he attempted to negotiate favorable surrender terms with the Allies, focusing on minimizing German civilian and military casualties. His presidency, lasting only a few weeks, marked the final chapter of the Third Reich. After the war, Dönitz was tried at the Nuremberg trials, where he was charged with war crimes related to unrestricted submarine warfare. He defended his actions as consistent with wartime practices, but was convicted and sentenced to 10 years in prison. Following his release in 1956, he lived a relatively quiet life, writing memoirs and reflecting on his role in the war. Grand Admiral Karl Dönitz remains a complex figure in history. On one hand, he was a brilliant strategist whose innovations in submarine warfare influenced naval tactics for decades. On the other hand, his unwavering allegiance to Hitler and his participation in the Nazi regime tarnish his legacy. Dönitz's story is one of both remarkable military achievement and profound moral ambiguity, encapsulating the dualities of leadership in one of history's darkest eras. These five admirals, Nimitz, Yamamoto, Cunningham, Spruance, and Dönitz, were more than military leaders. They were visionaries who shaped the course of World War II. Their decisions not only decided battles, but influenced the fate of nations. Each faced unique challenges and rose to the occasion with courage, innovation, and an unwavering commitment to their mission. As we look back on their legacies, we're reminded of the power of leadership in the most trying of times. Who do you believe was the greatest admiral of World War II? Share your thoughts in the comments and join us next time as we explore more fascinating stories from history's greatest conflicts.